South Sudan gained its independence from Sudan on July 9, 2011, becoming the world's youngest nation. This followed decades of struggle by Southern Sudanese and other oppressed people of Sudan against successive regimes in Khartoum. From 1955, a cornucopia of Southern Sudan-based armed groups, spearheaded by the Anyanya movement of Joseph Lagoa, fought guerrilla wars against various Sudanese governments. The conflict ended in 1972 when Lagoa's movement signed the Addis Ababa Agreement with the government of President Jafar Mohamed Noumeiri. The agreement gave Southerners limited autonomy within a united Sudan. However, not all Anyanya fighters supported the agreement. Those opposed to the deal remained in the bush and continued to battle the government in Khartoum and advocate for full independence of Southern Sudan from the rest of Sudan. But most Anyanya fighters returned home, including those officers and non-commissioned officers who were quietly unhappy with the agreement, but found no immediate outlet to express their displeasure. This group included a certain Captain Jonglei State. By 1983, and much to the dismay of Southerners, President Noumeiri had almost completed unraveling the Addis Ababa Agreement of 1972. In fact, he even proceeded further to fragment the southern region and impose Islamic law in the country, setting the stage for renewed conflict with the Southerners. This time around, the Sudan People's Liberation Movement/Army, SPLM/A, under the leadership of Col. Jonglei State, led the revolution, which now also included disgruntled Sudanese from the Nuba Mountains and the Blue Nile. The war started out in southern Sudan and soon it engulfed the entire country. The toll on the civilian population was heavy, prompting calls for a negotiated settlement. The Nigerians tried to mediate, but their efforts hit a snag, largely due to the intransigence of the then National Islamic Front government of President Omar Hassan al-Bashir. Later, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter also got involved. However, the most serious effort to end the conflict through negotiations came from the leadership of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development or IGAD countries led by former Kenyan President Daniel Arap Moi. The talks, held in different Kenyan cities and towns over several years, culminated in the signing in 2005 of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, CPA, in the Kenyan capital Nairobi. The deal brought an end to the conflict, Africa's longest-running civil war, which had cost an estimated 2 million lives and uprooted millions more from their homes. It also enshrined the right of Southerners to determine their own destiny in a referendum to be held after a 6-year interim period, January 9, 2011. In the internationally monitored referendum, more than 98% of Southern Sudanese voted to secede from the north and establish their own country. And on July 9, 2011, some 6 months after the plebiscite, Southern Sudan was declared an independent state. Consequently, it joined the Community of Nations as the 193rd member of the United Nations and the 54th member of the African Union. South Sudan is a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multilingual, multireligious, and multiracial society made up of 64 tribes. South Sudan, a landlocked country with an area of 644,329 square km, is located in eastern Central Africa. The country is bordered by 6 other African countries, Sudan in the north, Ethiopia in the east, Kenya in the southeast, Uganda in the south, the Democratic Republic of Congo in the southwest and the Central African Republic in the west. Unfortunately, like many other countries in the world, South Sudan remains vulnerable to climate change. For South Sudan, this has only exacerbated humanitarian conditions for millions of people. It continues to struggle with an array of environmental issues such as water pollution, wildlife conservation, loss of vegetation covers and biodiversity, flooding and periodic droughts. The main tributary of the River Nile, the White Nile, passes through South Sudan, forming an expansive swamp commonly referred to as the Sudd region. The Sudd, located in Jonglei State, is the world's largest swamp. South Sudan's highest point is Mt. Kinyeti in eastern Equatoria State at 10,456 feet or 3,187 m above sea level, and its lowest point is the White Nile at 381 m. The country receives a reasonable amount of rainfall, mostly between May and November. May used to be the wettest month of the year, with July considered to be the coolest, when temperatures drop to around 20 degrees Celsius. With temperatures hovering in the neighborhood of 40 degrees Celsius, the month of March remains one of the hottest months of the year. Natural resources. South Sudan's mineral resources remain largely unexplored and untapped. Certain estimates suggest that the country is rich in mineral resources such as gold, diamonds, petroleum, hardwoods, limestone, iron ore, copper, chromium ore, zinc, tungsten, mica, and silver. Despite efforts by the government to diversify the economy, South Sudan's economy continues to be predominantly an oil-based economy. Conflict, devastating floods, the COVID-19 pandemic and now the war in Ukraine have all hampered efforts by the government to effectively deliver infrastructure and socio-economic services to the people as planned. This means that South Sudan continues to be a net importer of many consumer goods and products. Most imports, cars, lorries, pharmaceuticals, electronics, foodstuffs, and clothing, come from the United Arab Emirates, China, Uganda, and Kenya. The signing of the RRCs in September 2018 and the formation of a transitional government of national unity in February 2020 are contributing positively towards economic recovery and peace building. The government has also undertaken a series of reforms in line with the agreement that are meant to support longer-term stability and development. A 2-year extension of the RRCs to February 2025 will further allow the government to meet key milestones in the peace agreement. Fortunately, there is broad consensus among the peace partners in the government that full implementation of the RRCs, strengthening of government institutions, particularly those related to public financial management, the rule of law, good governance, and service delivery, will be critical as the government endeavors to consolidate peace, build resilience against future shocks and embark upon a path of sustainable economic growth. Following the independence of South Sudan on July 9, 2011, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation was established. South Sudan's independence came after decades of armed conflict between the Sudan People's Liberation Movement/Army, SPLM/A, and successive Sudanese regimes. When South Sudan came into existence amid strong regional and international support, as the 193rd member of the United Nations and 54th member of the African Union, the Ministry of Regional Cooperation became the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, and the liaison offices got upgraded to full diplomatic missions. The Constitution of the Republic of South Sudan places the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation in charge of carrying out the country's foreign policy and international cooperation, with the overarching objective of protecting and projecting the national interest abroad. Thank you for watching this video.